let's jump right in and start off with our first dupe. Now, this piece is from Horchow, and you guys, it's over $4,000. Way too much for me to pay. This is what it is. It's a gorgeous piece of wall art. I love the colors, the textures, the size, everything about it is absolutely stunning, except for, of course, the price. As you can see, it is $4,125. That's way out of my budget, so let's make it for less. The first IKEA item that we are going to use in our dupes is a placemat. They have a huge variety of placemats here. Placemats are so versatile. They can be for some art. So let's see what we can do with this pretty one right here. But we are not going to leave this placemat plain. We are going to jazz it up. And we're going to do that with some white craft paint. So I got my craft paint and a paintbrush, and I began to paint along the outside of this placemat. I went around the rim of the placemat and then I just worked my way inside. I'm going to paint various areas on this placemat to make my artwork look unique and special. It's not identical to our inspiration piece, but it's pretty close. And I like the unique touches that we added to make ours one of a kind. So once I had all the paint on my placemat, I let it dry for 1 hour. In the meantime, while this paint was drying, it's time to focus on the frame. Now the frame in our inspiration piece is a lucite frame. My frame is from the thrift store and it was only $5.99. What we're gonna do with my frame is we are going to paint it white. So I had to remove the glass and the backing from the frame, and then I took my frame outside and I sprayed it in some white gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure it was completely saturated in the spray paint. I painted the top, the sides, and once it was completely done, I let it dry for 2 hours. The backing on our inspiration piece was neutral and it looked like it was textured, and so I wanted to do something very similar, and I remembered that I had some leftover fabric from when we redid the dining room. I reupholstered these chairs and I had some of this leftover fabric, and so that's what we're going to use. I cut out a square of this fabric and I covered the backing from my frame. I got some hot glue and I hot glued the fabric to the back of the frame to make it stay in place. Then I took my placemat and I put it in the center of our square. I got a ruler out to make sure that it was centered, and then I got some hot glue and I hot glued the placemat to the backing. Now that everything's been transformed, it's time to put it back together. So I got my frame and I put my glass in first, then I put in our artwork. Now, because we have a 3D placemat in the front, it's not going to fit like it did originally. It's gonna poke out just a little bit in the back. So I was able to clamp down a couple of the staples, but in order to secure it really well together, I got some clear packing tape and I put it around the edge where the backing and the frame meet. That way the artwork does not fall out of the frame. Now we are finished with our artwork. I love the way that this turned out. It would be a beautiful piece in so many different decor styles. And I think it is very similar to our inspiration piece. Well, similar in the fact that they look the same, but they certainly do not cost the same. So let's go over the cost of how much I spent to create my wall art. The placemat from IKEA was $7. The frame from the thrift store was $5.99. The square of fabric was $3. We'll say that we spent like a quarter on the craft paint. We didn't use that much. So in total, it's going to cost me $16.25 to create my wall art. I love that cost. That is a great cost for this beautiful wall art. And that means that we saved $4,108.75 over the Horchow piece. Love it. Our next dupe is going to be from Horchow as well, and it is a flower arrangement. I love making flower arrangements. Any chance I get, I love to do it because they are just so bright and cheerful, especially when we get to use peonies. Now, this arrangement from Horchow is $395. It's a beautiful piece. It's 10 inches tall, so it's not that big, but for that price, I am positive that we can make it for less. The IKEA piece that we're gonna use in this is a glass container. I found this jar. This is going to be perfect for one of my dupes. It's only $4.99, which is a steal. We're gonna start off by transforming our glass container because it is clear right now and we want it to be opaque. I have this Krylon frosted glass spray paint. I took my container outside and I sprayed it in this frosted spray paint. I made sure it was completely covered in the paint. If you want more of a translucent look, just lightly spray it. I wanted mine to be saturated to match the inspiration piece, so I sprayed my container heavily in this frosted glass spray paint. Once I was satisfied with the look, I let it dry for 1 hour. The floral selection at IKEA is one of my favorite places to be. You can go there and just spend so much time, and they have beautiful stems and they're not that expensive. So I picked up a hydrangea stem, a really full big hydrangea, and then I also got a bunch of peonies, some pink peonies that match perfectly with our inspiration piece. Now, I love to use the tape grid method, so I got out my Scotch tape and I put it over the top of my container. Now, usually when you buy bunches of peonies, you can remove the floral tape and you can pull the flowers out individually, right? That's what I thought was going to happen. Well, that's not the case. They were stuck together. So if you do purchase a bunch of flowers from IKEA, there is a high likelihood that it will come stuck together in one bunch. So I had to use my creativity, and instead of cutting them, what I just did was I bent the stems to fan the flowers out. I also had to get creative with my large hydrangea floral. So it was too big and I needed to trim it down. So I just cut off a couple of the stems of flowers from the big bunch to create a smaller one. So now I can put my flowers in my container. I bent the stem of the hydrangea and I put that in, and then I put my bunch of peonies in as well. Then I went back and I added those stems that I cut off from the large hydrangea, and I just put them in sporadically to make my arrangement look full and beautiful. This floral arrangement was so easy to make. I literally just painted this container, added a tape grid, and then put my flowers inside. Anybody can do this, but look at how beautiful this is. It's just so pretty. And we spent a fraction of the price of what our inspiration piece cost. So let's go over ours. Our cost for the container from IKEA was $4.99. We'll estimate that we used about half a can of this frosted paint, so we'll say that was $3. The hydrangea stem was $5.99 and our peonies were $6.99. So in total, it cost me $21 to create our beautiful floral arrangement. We ended up saving $374 over our inspiration piece. Let's move on to dupe number 3. Again, our inspiration piece comes from Horchow. This piece happens to be a pillow. Now, I picked up a pillow covering from IKEA. Now we're over here in the pillow section, and in the past I've told you guys that you don't have to buy new pillows to refresh your space. All you need to do is get pillow coverings. Well, they have a huge variety of pillow coverings here. We're gonna get one and we're gonna spruce it up. Our inspiration piece pillow is $115. That's too expensive for a pillow, but I do love the detail that's on this pillow. I love the florals, and I love that they're 3D florals. It's just so elegant and beautiful. Now we are going to make our own version of this particular pillow. I'm using some different colors and a little bit of a different design, but it's still going to mimic our inspiration piece. So what we're gonna do is get our pillow covering. I'm going to use some iron-on vinyl. So I created some stems and some leaves, and I had my Cricut Maker cut them out. Then I placed them over the top of my pillow covering. I got my Easy Press and I put it over the top of the vinyl, and the Easy Press fused everything together. I needed some 3D flowers, and I remembered that I used some flowers to embellish my pumpkins in the fall. I loved these flowers. They are so pretty. They are from Hobby Lobby. They are over in the ribbon and the lace section, so you can buy a yard of this, which is what I did back in the day, and I had some that was left over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these flowers out individually. I'm going to cut them away from the ribbon that's underneath it, so I have flowers that I can place on my pillow covering. To attach them to my pillow covering, what I did was I got a needle and thread, and I simply just sewed them to the pillow covering. I had 20 of these flowers, so each pillow gets 10. Next, I filled my pillows with a feather insert that I had just at home, and now we are done. You guys, these pillows, oh my goodness. It's probably one of my favorite dupes that I've ever done. I love the way they look. This looks so expensive. The 3D flowers make this look unique and special, and to switch out your pillows can get expensive, but if you buy pillow coverings and embellish them the way that we've done it, it can make things a lot more affordable. You would never know that this was a pillow covering that I embellished for a very cheap price. So let's go over how much it cost me to make my pillow coverings. So as you saw, the pillow coverings at IKEA were $4.99. That's a steal, you guys. That's one of the best things that you can buy at IKEA are the pillow coverings. So I purchased 2 of those, so that's $10. I did use an entire roll of this champagne iron-on vinyl, so we'll say that was $10. The leftover floral pieces, we'll say that those were $3. So to create my pillow covering, it cost me $24 for 2, which is awesome. Now I will say that the pillows from Horchow came with the pillows inside, and I did add mine. I had mine at home. So if you do need to go out and buy some actual pillows themselves, you'll have to add that cost to the price of this. But nonetheless, you guys, we saved ourselves $207 over our inspiration pillows. Love it. They turned out so beautifully, and you guys, they were so affordable to make. If you're looking for a cheap way to spruce up your home decor, change out your pillows, but you are on a tight budget, this is the way to do it. All right, I found some prints that are pretty affordable. They're still only $24.99, but I know that we can make these for less. You don't always have to recreate a really expensive piece like this IKEA piece. It's not that much, it's $24.99, but I know that we can make it for so much less. So what I did was I created some prints on Canva. Now, I tried to do it as similar to the IKEA pieces as I possibly could. I used the same herbs, I used the same vegetables, and I tried to use the same font. And I think it turned out almost identical to our IKEA pieces. And the best part about these is that you can have them as well. I will leave a link to this free printable in my description box. So all you need to do at home is print them out and put them in a frame, just like what we're gonna do right now. So I printed them out. The black one I printed out on regular copy paper, and the tan one I got some scrapbook paper that was textured to make it look a little more antique-y, but I just put it in my printer and I printed it out on this scrapbook paper. So now I got my frames. Now these frames are from the Dollar Tree. They're 8 by 10, which is a great size for $1.25. I pulled the mat and the backing out of the frame, and then I placed my prints inside. How adorable is this? You could put them in a kitchen, you could put them in a bathroom, so many places that you could put these. Now I will say that ours are smaller than our inspiration piece, but that's okay because we saved ourselves so much money. So let's talk about how much mine cost. I purchased 2 frames from the Dollar Tree for $1.25 a piece. We'll say that the cardstock was 50 cents and I just used copy paper for the other print. So in total, it's gonna cost me $3, which is a savings of $22 over our IKEA inspiration piece. Now, it's not a ton of money, but I like saving money and any amount is fine with me. Plus, we got these home decor pieces that are so easy and so pretty. They will go beautiful in your home. For our next dupe, we are going to the Wayfair website. Now, I was scrolling through there and I found this cast aluminum tray. So pretty, absolutely loved it. And I always like making trays. I'm using this bamboo tray that I purchased at IKEA. This is going to be the top of our tray. This tray from Wayfair was $93.81. And so we are going to make our own. What I'm gonna do is get this bamboo tray, that's gonna be the top, but we need to create a base. So what I'm going to do to make the detailed portion on the base of our tray is get a Dollar Tree candy dish and a wood burner tool. The plastic dissolved right before my eyes. I hardly had to do anything. I went around the base of this candy dish. It was so simple to remove the bottom piece. Now, yes, you can get a Dollar Tree candlestick instead of doing what I'm doing, so you can use that as an alternative, but I thought it would be fun to show you guys a different kind of technique. Next, we're going to get our stacked rectangles and put those underneath our decorative piece. I had some leftover wood from the fireplace build that I did a couple weeks back. I got my jigsaw and I cut 2 different sized pieces out. One that was about 1/2 inch bigger than the other. Now I have all of my pieces. I've got the 2 rectangles. I have the decorative centerpiece and the top tray. So let's assemble everything together. I got some liquid nails and I put that in between the 2 pieces of wood, pressed that firmly together, and then I put some on the bottom of my decorative plastic piece and put that on top of the wood. I added some more liquid nails to the top of the plastic piece and then pressed my tray on top. I'm going to let this dry for several hours just to make sure that it's really sturdy before we move it. So now that everything's dry, let's take it outside and spray it in some spray paint. I'm using some shiny silver paint. This is a Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure the entire tray and the base was saturated in this shiny silver spray paint. Once everything was completely covered, I let it dry for 1 hour. And that's it. We are all done with our beautiful tray. I think it looks so similar to our inspiration piece. Theirs is a little bit longer than mine, but that's okay because again, we were able to save so much money. So let's calculate the price of how much it cost us to make our tray. We'll say that the scrap wood was 50 cents. We spent $1.25 on the Dollar Tree candy dish. The tray from IKEA was $5.99. We used about 1/2 can of spray paint, so we'll say that that was $4. And then we used about 50 cents of the liquid nails. So in total, our tray cost us $12.25 to make, which means that we saved $81.56 over our inspiration piece. Terrariums can be expensive, so I was excited when I saw this plastic terrarium on the Dollar Tree website. They just ship it straight to your local Dollar Tree and you just pick it up there. The sand, the shells, and this artificial greenery is all from Michael's, and I used my 40% off coupon, so I got some good deals. We're gonna start off by putting the sand in our terrarium first, and then we'll add the rest. I used a large measuring spoon to scoop in about a cup of sand, and then I smoothed it out into an even surface. The only difference between my terrarium and the Pottery Barn terrarium is that theirs has an air plant in it. I'm using artificial because if you know anything about me, you know that I am no gardener, so I'm not taking any chances. I got this greenery at Michael's for 40% off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip off the ends, and then I'm going to stick it inside my terrarium, and the sand will hold it in place. After you have it to the size that you want, I'm just taking this moss. I already have this moss, so this isn't going to cost me anything. I'm going to place a little bit down first inside, and then I'll stick my little plants right inside of the moss. I got a bag of shells at Michael's for $5.49, and there were enough shells in it that I could spread it out equally amongst my 4 terrariums. Here's the Pottery Barn Inspiration Terrarium, priced at $34.50 a piece. And here's my look for less terrarium at a grand total of $3.18 a piece. An almost identical piece of decor for over $31 less. On top of my terrarium, I'm going to add a fun beach-themed quote, along with some coordinating turquoise ribbon. You could just leave it plain, but I like adding a little extra. You could put the menu on there, you could put place cards, or you could put your favorite beach that you've traveled. And this is a perfect favor for your guests to take home. I know that I would love to take this home, and for $3.18, it's the perfect price. One of my fabulous subscribers sent me this recommendation. Ellie messaged me on Instagram and she wanted me to recreate this Gingko wall panel from Horchow. I understand why Ellie wants to dupe this piece because it comes in at the hefty price of $1,500. I am confident that we can recreate it for so much less. The first thing that we need to do is find a frame that's similar to our inspiration piece. Now, my first thought was, well, I can just make one. I'll just head to the lumber store and get the wood and make it myself. But as I was shopping at Hobby Lobby, I came across the clearance section, the place where they have all of the frames that the glass is broken or the back is missing. And all I needed was this frame portion. This particular frame was the perfect shape and size, and it was even painted gold on the front. And the best part was it was only $17.10, which is actually a 90% off savings from what it was going for originally. So already we have hit the jackpot when it comes to bargains. The next dilemma that we need to solve is figuring out how we can create some of those branches that bend in the center. I went over to their wooden dowel section and I picked up 10 wooden dowels. These are the perfect size because they're not too wide, so you can easily bend them. The biggest obstacle that I came across was trying to find some Gingko leaves. I could not find them anywhere. They are not that popular of an item, I guess. So as I was wandering around Hobby Lobby, I was in the wedding section of all places, and they had these gold leaves. So first up, the color and the sheen was perfect, and it did have veining on these particular leaves. And I thought I can do something with these. And for the price of $3.99 for a package of 12, it was a no-brainer. Because we need to bend our wooden dowels, I needed to secure them into our frame so they wouldn't move around. I decided I was going to get my drill and drill some holes around the frame. I drilled down only about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. You don't want to drill all the way through the frame. You just need to make a pocket for your wooden dowels to sit in so they'll stay in place. I made holes in similar places as our inspiration piece. Once all of the holes were drilled on the bottom of the frame, I moved to the top of the frame. At the top of the frame, I drilled my holes in at an angle. The reason I'm doing this is because when these wooden dowels come up an arch, we want them to come in at an angle. So on the top portion, I drilled all those holes in at angles. And then I also had a few holes that I needed to drill in on the sides. Now that all the holes are drilled, I needed to cut my wooden dowels to the correct size. So I got some wire cutters and I cut the dowels so that they would fit in the frame. I put all of the wooden dowels into the frame for a dry run. Once I thought everything looked fantastic, I pulled everything back out. And now it's time to glue everything in place. I'm gonna use some E6000. I'm gonna add the glue to the top and the bottom of my wooden dowels and then place them into the holes that we drilled in the bottom, the top, and the sides of the frame. I tried to mimic our inspiration piece almost identically with the way that the curvature of the wooden dowels went. The height of the wooden dowels and the location where we were putting them. One thing that I did do was I added a little bit of electrical tape where those wooden dowels came up and hit the center of the other wooden dowel. I wasn't 100% sure that glue would hold it, so I put some electrical tape around there to make sure that they were secured together. Once all my wooden dowels were in place, I let the E6000 dry overnight. Now it's time to paint my frame and the branches. Now the frame on this was gold on the front, but it was black on the side. So I just painted everything in this gold Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that the frame and all of the wooden dowels were completely coated in this gold spray paint. Once everything was sufficiently coated, I let it dry for 3 hours. Now it's time to create our Gingko leaves. So I took my gold Hobby Lobby leaves and I removed the metal portion from the back. Then I printed off some Gingko leaves and then I cut them out. So I have my template of what I want my Gingko leaves to look like. I put this template over the top of my leaves. I traced around them with a pencil and then I cut them out. Now I made a couple of different sizes and shapes of these Gingko leaves. That way I had a little bit of a variety in my piece. I didn't want them to all be the same. They are very similar, but they do have some unique little indentations and designs on each of the Gingko leaves. Now all I need to do with my Gingko leaves is attach them to my wooden dowels. So I got some hot glue and I placed it on our wooden dowel branches, and then I put the Gingko leaves over the top. I repeated this process with all 12 of my gold Gingko leaves. You guys, we did it! Check out this amazing Gingko paneled wall art. Doesn't it look fantastic? Look at how similar this is to our inspiration piece. It's almost an identical match. I cannot even tell you how excited I am to have this beautiful piece of wall art. It did take a lot of creativity to come up with solutions for the branches and the leaves and the frame. But once we did, it was so easy to put it together and to make this beautiful piece. I am pretty impressed with the way that this turned out. But do you know what's even more impressive is how much money we ended up spending, because it's not near as much as our inspiration piece. You saw that the frame was $17.10. Each of the wooden dowels were 39 cents, so I got 10 of those, that's $3.90. The Gingko leaves were $3.99. We will say that we used about half a can of spray paint, so that'll be $3.50. And we will lump together the little bit of E6000 and the electrical tape together and say that was $1. So in total, it cost me $29.49 to create my piece, which means we saved $1,520.51 over our inspiration piece. That's a huge savings. So Ellie, thank you for suggesting that we dupe this piece. I hope you liked it and I hope you can make one for so much less. Our next dupe is also from Horchow. It is this beautiful floral arrangement. I love the white peonies and the size of the arrangement. The container that it's in, this glass vase, is just beautiful. What I don't love is the cost of $740. That's out of my budget. So let's try and recreate it. The first thing that I need is a similar container to our inspiration piece. So let's test out our luck at the thrift store and see if we can find one there. It must be our lucky day because I found this glass vase, this container that's an almost identical match at the thrift store. It's so pretty, you guys. It actually has this etched detail along the sides, which I think is just even more beautiful than our inspiration piece. And the best part about this container is that it was only $5.99. So we are off to a great start. Another lucky score was when I went to Hobby Lobby, all of the florals were 50% off. So I was able to pick up 2 bunches of white peonies for half off. And then I was on the hunt for the little buds that were in the flower arrangement. I couldn't find any in the shape and the color that I was looking for, but I did find some mini roses that had the same pink tone to it. So I picked up a bunch of those and they were also 50% off. Our inspiration piece had some fake water in the bottom of the container, so I wanted to do that as well. So I picked up some of this craft water at Hobby Lobby as well. So now we have all of our pieces to create our dupe. We're gonna start off with the craft water. Now you guys, I'm gonna be completely honest with you and let you know that I've never used this before. So we are testing it out together and hopefully it works. So what I'm gonna do with this craft water is follow the instructions really well. And it said to get a big pot of water and fill it up and bring it to a boil. I added the bottle of craft water and let it sit in the boiling water for about 10 to 15 minutes. The boiling water will liquefy the craft water that's inside of the bottle. After 15 minutes, it was liquefied. I pulled it out of the water with some hot pads. Then I dumped the boiling water out of my pot and replaced it with my glass container. The instructions say to do this. The reason why is they want your container to be brought up to temperature. They don't want your container to be cold because if you pour in a hot liquid into a cold container, a lot of times it can crack. So I left my vase in this warm pot for about 5 minutes. Then I removed the lid from the craft water and I poured it into my glass container. I made sure that it went directly into the vase. I tried not to get any on the sides. At this point, we have 15 minutes to get our flowers into place before this gel starts to harden. So we have to move with purpose. So what I did was I got some tape and I made a tape grid over the top, and then I began to put my stems of peonies into the tape grid. Now, because this gel is still in a liquid form, the peonies did not stay upright. So I ended up doing a whole bunch more tape grids. That way the flowers would stay upright and in place. Once I had all of my peonies where I wanted them to be, I grabbed the little rosebuds and I placed those in the same location as our inspiration piece floral arrangement. Once I had everything in place, I just left it alone overnight. And here is our final floral arrangement. You guys, look at how beautiful this is. You can see that the craft water has hardened and it's holding these flowers in place. So I can kind of jiggle it around. I don't really want to, but you can see that they're not going anywhere at this point. I think that this floral arrangement is so pretty. It looks so similar to our inspiration piece. The white peonies are gorgeous, and I love the little pops of these little pink roses in there too. I just think it just is such a beautiful and cheerful piece. And the container, this glass base, makes it so classy. So let's go over the cost of how much I spent to create my floral arrangement. Our beautiful vase was $5.99. The 2 bunches of peonies from Hobby Lobby after taking 50% off were $15. The pink rosebuds after 50% off were $3.50. The craft water was $11.99. So in total, to create our beautiful floral arrangement is going to cost me $36.49. which is a savings of $703.51 over our inspiration piece. I think that that is a great deal for what this turned out to be. I love it. It's a beautiful dupe. We are going to stick with Horchow for our next dupe, and it's going to be this gorgeous dragonfly in a shadow box. Oh, I just loved this piece. I thought it would be perfect for spring and summer, all these bright, cheerful seasons coming up. I could display it on a shelf or on a table. I just really wanted to recreate this piece, especially since the cost is $660. That's a lot. But don't worry, shipping is free. So what I did to find my shadow box that was going to be affordable was I hit up the clearance section at Michael's, and I came across this shadow box that was almost identical to our inspiration piece. It's gold, and it even has that textured grass cloth on the back. And it was only $15, which is 50% off the original price of this shadow box, which is a great deal. To find my dragonflies, what I did when I was at Hobby Lobby was I headed over to the wooden section where the wooden dowels were. I was already over there, and this is where I found some wooden dragonflies. I really loved all of the cutouts and the details that were on this dragonfly, but it was pretty flat and I wanted it to have a little more dimension. So when I was over in the spring section, I found another dragonfly I thought would be perfect to layer underneath our more decorative dragonfly. I'm going to paint both of my dragonflies in this gold Rust-Oleum spray paint. I took my pieces outside and I sprayed them thoroughly in the gold spray paint. I made sure that both of these dragonflies were completely saturated in the gold spray paint, and then I let them dry for 1 hour. While I was letting these dragonflies dry, I thought it was a perfect time to work on the mat that's going to go inside of my shadow box. I have this cardstock that is sticky on the back. It's from Cricut, and I knew that this would be perfect to create a mat out of. So I had my Cricut maker cut out a mat that was the perfect size for my shadow box. I removed the covering from the back of my mat, and then I pressed it firmly to the center of the grass cloth backing. Next, I took my dragonflies and I put some hot glue on the back of the decorative dragonfly first, and I placed it in the center of the larger dragonfly. Then I added some hot glue to the back of the large dragonfly and just pressed it into the center of the mat. Then I simply placed the backing back onto my shadow box frame, and now we are finished. Look at how pretty this piece is, you guys. I am just absolutely in love with it. This is a great way to make seasonal decorations for your home, because creating decor like this is still very classy. It's very subtle. You could put this on a shelf, like I said, or a table, on top of a dresser. Of course, you could hang it on the wall, but it just brings in that spring and summer feeling without being over the top. My daughter has actually already claimed this dragonfly for her room, so congratulations, she gets it. This is gonna be fun to have in her room. All right, so let's go over the costs of how much I spent to create my dragonfly wall art. The shadow box frame was $15. The decorative dragonfly was 99 cents, but the wooden pieces were 40% off, which brings it down to 60 cents. The larger dragonfly in the spring section was $2, but it was also 40% off, so that brings it down to $1.20. I'm going to lump together the small amount of spray paint and hot glue into a cost of 50 cents. So in total, it's going to cost me $17.30 to create my dragonfly wall art. I think that that is a bargain, especially considering how much our original piece cost. It was $660. So we saved ourselves $642.70. That is a huge savings. My inspiration came from the Front Gate website. They had this set of vases. They're gorgeous, but they are way too expensive. Look at those prices. I think we can do better. I have a pair of amber orange colored vases that I didn't use very often. The only time I really got them out was during the fall or Thanksgiving. The size and the shape of these vases is perfect, but I needed to change the color. I'm gonna take them outside. I flipped them upside down and I got some white Rust-Oleum spray paint. I began to spray the vases. I did a good solid coat of paint around all the sides, the top, and then I let them dry for about an hour, and I did a second coat of paint. I wanted it to be completely covered in the white paint once the second coat was finished, and then I let it dry overnight. Now the gold detail, these cherry blossoms on my inspiration vase was real gold. I don't need real gold, so I just got on my Cricut design space. I created this cherry blossom design, and if you don't have a Cricut, I have several other options for you. Number one, you can free paint this design on just with a paintbrush and some gold craft paint. My skills at freehanding are not very good, and I knew if I did that, it would not look very professional. If you can do that, do it. The second option is I have created a free printable for you guys. Now, you can take this printable, you can print it off at home, cut it out, get some Mod Podge, and put it on your vase or your container. Another thing that you can do is you can get some shipping labels. They come in big sheets. You can print them off on the sticky shipping labels, then cut them out and then adhere those stickers to the vase. So there's a couple of options if you don't have a vinyl cutter. Inside my vases, I placed some dogwoods. They are from the Dollar Tree. I also have some other beautiful pink and white florals. I'm bringing in that pink filling because a pastel pink is just perfect for spring, and that's what we're going for in this design, is kind of a subtle spring design. If you're looking to decorate with neutrals for the changing seasons, using pieces like this is perfect because it doesn't scream spring or summer or fall. What it does is it gives you a neutral backdrop so that you can add different florals, maybe a topiary, something inside that can be themed in those seasonal colors. But because this vase is a classic shape and it's in a neutral color, it will be able to blend in with any season or style. Okay, let's quick look back at our original pieces. They were so expensive, but by taking items that I already had, I simply transferred that idea onto something that I could afford. Wall art is a quick, easy way to spruce up any room. However, it can come with a hefty price tag. Take, for instance, this set of 4 European intaglios in a shadow box frame. This wall art is from Etsy. This set of 4 comes in at a whopping price of $680. I know that we can do much better than that. So the first thing that we need to do is find ourselves a shadow box frame. So I headed over to Michael's because recently they've been having some great sales on frames, and luckily for me, I found these frames. They are black 16 by 20 canvas frames, which is similar to a shadow box frame. And the price was right at only $10 a piece, so I picked up 2 of these. Now, one piece of advice I can give you is do not let the color dissuade you from buying something that you love. Color can always be changed. So yes, these frames are black, but that's not a big deal because we can paint them gold. So I took my frames outside and I got some gold Rust-Oleum spray paint and I sprayed the frames in this gold spray paint. I made sure that the entire frame, including the inside of the frame, was sprayed in the spray paint, and then I let it dry for 1 hour. The next item that we need is some canvas to go inside of our frame. I went to Hobby Lobby and I checked out their canvas section, and they had these 16 by 20 canvases and they were on clearance for only $6.99, and it was a package of 2. So that was a great find. The intaglios on our inspiration piece looked like they were marble or clay to me. So what I did while I was at Hobby Lobby, I figured I'd head over to the rock and the mosaic section and see what they had there. They had a package of these white flat rocks. I loved it. They're natural and misshapen, and I thought they would be a great backdrop for the design that we're going to put on top. And this bag was on sale 40% off. So far, so good. Now, our inspiration piece intaglios look like they had some farmers on it and some buildings, and while those are nice, I want something that is meaningful to me and my family, especially if I'm going to hang it up on the wall. Keys are an important part of our family and also in our religion, so I thought keys would be fantastic to put on our rocks. I went to the scrapbook section at Hobby Lobby and I found this package of 7 keys. Again, it was 40% off. The final piece that we need for our frames is a mat to go around it. As you know, mats can get extremely expensive, but while I was at Hobby Lobby, I decided to wander a little bit down the clearance section, and I found these huge, oversized mats. They had a white one, which is perfect for what we need, and the price was right at $3.24. Everything we needed at Hobby Lobby was either on sale or on clearance, so we hit the bargain jackpot. We are off to a great start. So now that we have our pieces, let's get started on our wall art. We are going to begin with the keys. The keys are great, but they are the wrong color, and so I'm going to take them outside and spray them in some white Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that these keys were saturated in this white spray paint, and then I waited for an hour to let them dry. I came back and I flipped the keys over and I sprayed them again on the opposite side. Once they were completely coated in the spray paint, I let them dry for another hour. While our paint is drying, I thought this was a perfect time to get started on our mat. So I took my canvas and I put it over the top of the mat. I took a pencil and I traced out the size I needed. Then I got a rotary cutter and I cut out the rectangle. For the inside, I got a ruler and I measured out the size that I needed to cut out the center. This time I'm using an X-Acto knife. I love using an X-Acto knife because it gets those lines crisp and sharp, especially in the corners. So now I have my mats. I cut 2 of them out and those are ready to go. Now it's time to assemble, so I took my mats and I added some hot glue to the canvas, and then I pressed my mat over the top because we do not want those mats sliding around. Next, I laid out my flat rocks to determine which ones I wanted to use, and then I got my keys and I added some hot glue to the back of the keys and then pressed them into the center of our flat rocks. I did this with all 6 of the keys. Now I'm going to take my rocks and I'm going to place them on my canvas. I got a ruler out to make sure that they were evenly spaced, and then I got some hot glue and I put the hot glue on the back of the rocks and pressed them firmly to the canvas. Again, I did this with all 6 of my rocks. Now all we need to do is take our canvas and put them back into the frame. I put in the plexiglass first and then put our canvas inside and then added the backing to the back. I have been wanting some artwork in this dining room right over here on the wall. I have some beautiful box moldings, but they were empty, and so I wanted to fill them with something that was classic and neutral. And these Intaglio shadow box pieces of wall art are perfect for this space. I hung them up, and now we have a beautiful piece in here. Not only is it gorgeous, but it is meaningful. I did let each of the family members pick out the key that represented them, so it does have a purpose, not only just being beautiful, but it does have some meaning behind it. Our inspiration wall art from Etsy was $680, and that was for a set of 4. We did 2, so let's break that down into an individual piece. So each piece of framed wall art was $170. So it would have been $340 for me to purchase these from Etsy. I ended up spending $39.31. So we ended up saving over $300 from our inspiration piece. And as a bonus, mine are larger. So I got the exact size that I wanted. And now I have some classy, elegant wall art to adorn the walls in my dining room. I'm excited to show you my master bedroom. I've been working in here. I've been doing a master bedroom refresh, and we also have multiple dupes that we're going to be doing in here. So come on in and check out the transformation. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about a master bedroom refresh is beautiful bedding. And I wanted to get some bedding that was light and bright for this time of year. So I started to look at some bedding. I wanted some soft pillows, some delicate textures, so I could create a peaceful ambiance in here. And I found a beautiful option on the Horde Chow website. I love this duvet and the pillows that came along with it. It was just the perfect color scheme that I was going for. However, to get this duvet and all of the pillows, it would cost me $1,733. So no, we're not going to go with that option, but we are going to find a much less expensive option. So let's start off with this coverlet. It's really thin, so it's perfect for this time of year. I love the color and the quilted herringbone pattern on it. It's just so pretty. This coverlet also came with the 2 king-size shams right here in the back. So already we're off to a great start. Now I've got these pillows that I absolutely love, and all I did was buy pillow coverings. I have 2 of these beautiful velvet jacquard geometric pillow coverings. And then this pillow right here in the cover is a cream velvet pleated pillow. And then the pillows at the back are the ones that I always have on my bed. I love these. They're so soft and plush, and I've had those forever. So it didn't cost me hardly anything to get this bedding. In fact, the cost for me to purchase this bedding and the pillow covers was only $48.92. You guys, that is such a huge savings over our $1,733 inspiration piece. If you're like me and you change your bedding out frequently for the different times of year, doing it in an affordable way is key. My pieces are from Temu. They are beautiful, they are elegant, and they brighten up this space and make it feel so luxurious. Let's move over and start decorating our nightstands. You guys know that I love ginger jars. I have them all over my house, and my collection always seems to be expanding. However, I like to do it on a budget. So my inspiration piece for our next dupe is from Caitlin Wilson, and these jars are beautiful. I love the classic shape, the white color, and the gold base that comes along with these jars. The downside is the price of $308 per jar, which is too expensive for me to pay. So we are going to happily dupe them for less. I was at Home Goods the other day and I came across these gorgeous white ginger jars. And the best part was these jars were only $30 a piece. So already we are off to a great start. Now our inspiration piece had these beautiful gold bases, which made them very unique and individual. So to mimic those, I needed some wood rounds. While I was at Hobby Lobby, I found these wood rounds that had some great detail on it. It was the perfect size, and the price was only $2.49. I scooped them up and brought them home, and now we're going to paint them. So I took them outside and I painted them in some gold Rust-Oleum spray paint. I made sure that these rounds were completely covered in the spray paint, and then I let them dry for an hour. Now I can simply put these gold rounds underneath my ginger jar. They fit under there perfectly. They had just the right amount of detail. They look so similar to our inspiration piece. For me to create our dupes, it only cost me $67. These jars are classic, they're beautiful, they bring in an elegance to this room, and they're the perfect size for my nightstand decor. I have been needing some new lamps for a very, very long time. The lamps that I have had on my nightstands, I purchased about 10 years ago. They were on clearance at TJ Maxx, and you guys, these lamps have been glued back together. They've been painted. I've tried to salvage them as best as I can. They've done their duty, and it's time to move on to a new lamp. I've had these lamps saved in my favorites on the Horchow website for a very long time. I love the way that they look. They're so unique and different. I love the branch detail on it, and the color scheme of the gold and white is perfect. The reason why I have not purchased them is because they cost $2,185 a piece for one. But don't worry, right now they're on sale. They're only $1,638.75, which is still not gonna happen. But at least it gave me some inspiration. So when I walked into HomeGoods the other day, I saw these lamps. You guys, I was so excited. They are perfect. It's got this marble base, the gold branches with these beautiful birds on it, and this lampshade, you guys, look at how pretty it is. I've never seen anything like this scalloped lampshade, and then it's got a pretty little bird on the top. So it was a no-brainer for me to scoop these up, especially because they only cost $59.99 each, which is such a huge savings over our inspiration piece. Getting unique pieces like this can take your design over the top. It makes it feel expensive because you haven't seen something like this before. They look and feel pricey. I love these lamps so much more than the inspiration lamps. So if I were to purchase these two lamps on the Horchow website, it would be $3,157, and that is from the sale price. And I ended up spending $120 on mine. So we saved ourselves thousands of dollars by finding a piece and purchasing it. So if you have items that you love, save it, favorite it, heart it, put it in an area where you can look at it and be inspired so that when you come across a piece so similar, you know to scoop it up. I like adding natural elements to my space. I think plants and flowers warm up a space and make it feel homey. We are going to create a flower arrangement right now. Our inspiration piece is from the Wayfair website. It was $45.99, which isn't outrageous, but I still think that we can do better. So we're gonna start off with a container. I purchased this container at TJ Maxx and it had been discounted multiple times. I picked it up for $4.50. I'm going to put a tape grid over the top. So I got some pieces of Scotch tape and I put that over the top. I did some lines vertically and horizontally. Now it's time to get our flowers. I purchased a bunch at Hobby Lobby. They were 40% off, which brought our cost down dramatically. And then I also have some flowers from Temu. What I'm going to do with these flowers is I'm going to bend the stem so I can get the right height, and then I'm going to put them in my tape grid. This was a really easy arrangement to create. I just put those flowers in the same location as our inspiration piece floral arrangement. Once my flowers were in place, we were done. You guys, so simple, so easy, so affordable. The cost to create my flower arrangement was $19.46. So we ended up saving over $26 from our inspiration piece, which isn't a lot, but I'm all about saving money and any amount is just fine with me. Now I can take this flower arrangement and put it on top of my nightstand. I love the warmth that it brings. It's feminine and masculine at the same time. The color scheme matches perfectly with what I'm going for in this room. These Kate Spade inspired gold polka dot tumblers. Now online at Bed Bath & Beyond, a set of just two is $49.99, which I would never pay. especially when you can find a set of 4 at Ross for $3.99 and you can just paint the gold dots on. The first step is to wash and thoroughly dry your cup because the paint will adhere better to a clean, dry surface. I got this paint at Michael's. They have a huge variety of paints there. Just make sure that on the back it specifies that it can be used on glass. And then I took a sponge and I just cut out a circle. So I have this little teeny circle and I'm gonna dip it in the gold paint. And then I'm going to gently put a little dot on my cup. Now, if the perimeter of your circle is not as sharp and crisp as you like, then take a small paintbrush and you can paint the edges to make it a lot more crisp and sharp. I also did 2 coats of paint because I wanted the gold color to be really saturated, and that way I wouldn't have any light coming through the glass. With the easy addition of a few gold polka dots, my Kate Spade knockoffs look just like our inspiration glasses, minus the sky-high price. Now that our glasses are complete, we need a place to put them, and the obvious choice is on a coaster. I found some coasters that I loved at HomeVert. They were black and gold. They were $15 a piece, and that was just way too much. I would not pay that. So I went to Michael's, and I found this set of 4 coasters. They're Slate, and after my 50% off coupon, they were only $1.59. I used this gold bright reflective finish paint on my coasters to mimic the inspiration piece, the inspiration coaster. Using painter's tape, I taped off my coasters, leaving a triangular shape exposed on one side. Be sure to press the tape firmly against your coaster. This will help prevent any paint bleeding through, and the result will be a sharp, even line. Evenly sprayed the exposed corners with paint. I did 2 coats of paint to make sure it was evenly covered and my gold was bright and vivid. If your paint bleeds through the tape and the line isn't as crisp as you would like, all you need to do is take a little paintbrush and paint a line straight across and you'll get a nice crisp edge. These coasters turned out better than I could have hoped for. And at a fraction of the cost of our inspiration piece, I couldn't be happier. My next project is a bonus project. I needed a place to store my coasters and I wanted to do it as fashionably as possible. So I found this wooden tray at Michael's as well, and after my 40% off coupon, it was only $2.07. This small wooden tray is the perfect size and shape to store my coasters. However, color-wise, it needed to match my set. So I spray painted it with 2 coats of gold paint and let it dry thoroughly before placing my coasters inside. Now I have a stylish way to store and display my coasters. My set of 4 coasters fit perfectly in my little box. And since they're slate, they're heat resistant, which means that this can double as a trivet. So you can put your hot pots and pans on top. My cups and coasters would have been over $160, but with a little creativity and elbow grease, I was able to get the look for less for $154 less. I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful orchid flower arrangement. I'm going to show you a few easy steps of how you can make it, and you'll be making flower arrangements like a pro. My inspiration piece was from Poor Chow, and it was an orchid arrangement. However, it was $950, and I was not going to spend $950 on arrangement, so I thought I'd make it myself for a fraction of the cost. I love the elegant feel of orchids. I purchased mine at Michael's and used my 30% off coupon. The flat green leaves were a perfect size and shape, and the succulents will add extra interest and detail to my arrangement. The next thing you're going to need to do is get some kind of a container. You can get a vase or a box. I found this at TJ Maxx. It's very similar to the inspiration piece, and it was only $14.99. So after you found your container, what we're going to do is we're just going to fill it up with floral foam to form a base on the bottom of our container, and then we'll secure it together with floral pins. A solid or opaque colored container will hide the floral foam and any other mechanics of your arrangement. I used a knife to cut my floral foam to the right size so they'd fit together like a puzzle, and I would have one solid base. Then I secured them together with floral pins so the foam wouldn't shift or move when I added the flowers. On top of our floral foam, we're gonna add some floral moss. I got this at the Dollar Tree, and what we're gonna do is put it on top of the floral foam, and we're gonna spread it out evenly until it's all nice and covered. Break up the block of moss and spread it out evenly until all of the floral foam is hidden. This floral moss is also really great for gaps in your foam because you can just press it inside and will make your base that much more secure. Pack the moss firmly into any nooks and crannies. This will give your base added stability. Once your moss is in place, tack it down with more floral pins placed randomly throughout your arrangement. The pins will help keep the moss in place. Now it's time to add our flowers. What you're going to want to do is place your large floral stems in first. I have 5 orchid stems, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them in my arrangement first and kind of get a rough estimate of where I want them, and then I can adjust the size and the shape that I want them to be. Now that our flowers are in place, we're going to add some bamboo right along the side of it. I already have this bamboo, so this isn't going to cost me anything. And then I got this raffia at the Dollar Tree. And what I'm going to do with the raffia is I'm going to tie it around the bamboo and around the floral stem so that they're tied tightly together. I placed the bamboo about 1/2 inch away from each of the orchid stems and then tied them together with a simple knot. The bamboo will give your orchid stem added strength so it won't bend or topple over. When you're done tying your knot, simply snip off any excess raffia. Now it's time to add our leaves and our succulents to the base of our arrangement. These leaves are from Michael's, and I'm just going to trim these right off so I'll have some stems. And then also on these succulents from the Dollar Tree, all I need to do is just pop these right out of this little pot and I can place them in my arrangement. We're going to place our leaves in our container in areas that are found naturally on an orchid plant, and then if there's any gaps or spaces in between the leaves, that's where we're going to add our succulents. I am so happy with the completed look. This project was easy to do and will be a timeless piece of home decor. The arrangement is an almost identical match to my inspiration piece, but came in at a much more reasonable price. After adding up all of the costs of the materials, including the flowers, the foam, the succulents, the leaves, and the container, it was around $50, which is $900 less than my inspiration piece. And considering the size and scale of this arrangement, that is a great deal. Going to be doing a look for less Christmas sign. Now I found this sign on Etsy and I just fell in love with it. Absolutely beautiful. It's so festive, it's got a classy touch, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. I completely want to make a version for myself. The problem was on the Etsy website, it was around $100, which isn't terrible. But I knew that we could make it for so much less, so that's what we are going to do today. So first off, I headed to my wood pile out in my garage. This is where all of my excess wood from all of my projects is. I selected a piece that was perfect for my sign. I got out my jigsaw and I cut the wood to size. Now my inspiration piece had some trim molding around the edges to create a frame. And so I wanted to do the exact same thing. Again, I'm going to be using some trim molding that was left over from all the molding that I did on the wall in my dining room. And I had a lot of extra molding left over from the gorgeous designs that we created on the wall. I again got out another one of my favorite saws. This time we're getting out the miter saw, and I cut my wood trim at 45-degree angles to create pieces that were perfect to go along the edge to create a frame on my sign. Now that I have the large wood piece for the sign and the trim for the edges, we are going to stain this large piece of wood that's going to create our sign. I'm going to be using this Rust-Oleum antique white wood stain. What I did was I got a sponge brush and I added the stain to the wood. I painted it all over the entire surface of this wood piece. Once it was completely coated in the paint, I got a paper towel and I wiped off the excess stain. The reason why I'm wiping off the excess is because I want to be able to see the grain that's in the wood. The white stain did dry pretty solidly, but you can still see a little bit of the grain that's running through the sign. You can see it just kind of peeking through, which is the look that I really was going for. Once it was all painted and the excess stain was wiped off, I let it dry completely, which took overnight. I had a hard time finding a font that mimicked exactly my inspiration piece font. So what I did was I just created my own. So I wrote Christmas out in this twirly scroll Christmas. Oh, I just love the way it looks. It's just, I don't know, fancy, but classy at the same time. And the way that we're gonna create all of the detail and the wording on my sign is we're going to be using my Cricut Maker. So I started off by getting some red permanent vinyl. This is a smart vinyl. In my Cricut design space, I hit new project. Then I went to upload because we're uploading a custom design I created. So I hit upload image. I'd saved my custom design in my downloads. All I needed to do was select, drag, and drop it right into my design space. Now I can remove the background by hitting moderately complex because this isn't a very complex image. Then I hit continue, and then I took that crossbar and I just selected the background. In all those little places, I just want to get rid of the white so that the background just disappears and I just have Christmas. Then I hit apply and continue. Then I selected my design and I hit upload. Now I can select it again and put add to canvas. Now I can create the size that I need. So it's just a custom size that will fit my board. So I made it to the size I needed and then clicked make it. At this point, I selected continue, and then I chose my material, which was a smart vinyl permanent, and I hit more on the pressure. I loaded it into my Cricut Maker, and then I hit the flashing arrow button, which measured it out to make sure I had enough vinyl. Once it was done measuring, I hit the flashing play button, which began the cutting process. When it was done cutting, I hit the flashing arrow button and it released my vinyl. To create all of my other lettering on my sign, I'm going to be using a black smart vinyl. In my Cricut design space, I hit new project, then I went to images. In the search bar, I typed in banner. Several options came up. I scrolled down and selected this banner right here and hit add to canvas. Then I went and I unlocked the size and I typed in the custom size I needed. At this point, I hit text. I typed in @ put it above my banner, put the font the size I needed, and then I rotated it so it would fit in my banner. Next, I moved it so it was in the center. Then I hit text again and I typed in the. I did the exact same thing. I put the font size to the same similar as I did the @ and I rotated it as well and moved it to the center of the second side of the banner. Then I hit select all and went down and pressed attach. And now the banner and the lettering are welded together and create one design. Then I hit text and I typed in welcome to. Then I went up to the font. I knew the font I wanted, so I typed that in the search bar. I selected it to change the font. Then I unlocked the size and typed in the custom size that I needed. And kind of moved that out of the way. Next, I hit text again and I typed in Burningham's. And then I went to font and I knew the font that I needed, so I typed that in the search bar as well. Selected it to change the font. I unlocked the size and typed in the custom size. Now I did go back later on and change this to all uppercase letters. Then I hit text again. And once I did that, I realized I forgot the E on welcome. So I quickly edited that. And then I wrote established in 1999 because that's how long we've been married. Then I went back up to the font and in the search bar, I typed in the font that I wanted. I selected it to change the font, and then I just kind of moved it around so I could see it a little bit better.
Then I went up to the lock, I unlocked it so I could type in the custom size that I wanted for my lettering. And finally, I went to images, and in the search bar, I typed in Christmas corner bracket. Several options came up. I scrolled down and I selected the one with the hanging stars. I hit add to canvas. I've got a lot of things on my canvas right now, so I moved it out of the way so I could see it a little bit more clearly. I unlocked the size. I typed in the custom size that I wanted, and then I went over and I hit duplicate because I needed 2. But I wanted this one to be on the other side, so I flipped it. And believe it or not, we have all of our pieces. So I hit make it. Sorted it onto my mat. We are doing it without a mat because we are using a smart vinyl. I hit continue. At this point, I selected my smart vinyl permanent and I hit more on the pressure.
I loaded my smart vinyl into my Cricut Maker. I hit the flashing arrow button, which measured out to the correct size. Once it was completed, I hit the flashing play button, which began the cutting process. Once it was all done cutting all of my wording, I hit the flashing arrow button, which released my vinyl. And for my cute little trees, I'm going to be using a green and white checked vinyl.
In my Cricut design space, I hit new project. I clicked on images. In the search bar, I typed in Christmas trees. Several options came up. I scrolled down and selected this tree right here and hit add to canvas. In my canvas, I selected my tree and then went up and unlocked the size so I could type in the custom size that I needed for my sign. Once it was the correct size, I went over and I hit duplicate, so I had 2 trees. And then I hit make it. Now I can select if I'm going to do it with a mat or without. This is going to be on the mat. And then I hit continue. At this place, you can select your material. I am using a premium vinyl, and I always hit more on the pressure.
I'm going to be putting this vinyl on a mat. I loaded my mat into the Cricut Maker. I hit the flashing arrow button, which loaded my vinyl into the maker. Then I hit that flashing play button, which began the cutting process. Once my trees were all cut, I hit that flashing arrow button, which released my mat, and now I have my beautiful trees. At this point, I just weeded away all of the excess vinyl from around my wording. Then I got some transfer tape and I placed it over the top of my wording. Then I got a large scraper tool and I pressed the transfer tape and the vinyl firmly together. Then I removed the backing from the vinyl. Now I can place my vinyl on my sign. So I needed it to be exactly in the center, so I measured out where it would be, and then I put my vinyl right on the wood. I got that scraper tool and I pressed the vinyl firmly to the wood, and then I removed the transfer tape. I continued the process of weeding away all of the excess vinyl from all of the other words, and then I did the same thing where I put the transfer tape over the top, pressed everything firmly together, removed the backing from the vinyl, and then placed my wording on my sign. I pressed it firmly to my sign with my large scraper tool and then removed the transfer tape. I did the same thing with my 2 trees. I placed them in the bottom corners, and then for the top, I placed them in the upper corners of my sign. Now I have all my vinyl on my sign. Woo! That was a process, but oh my goodness, I absolutely love the way that it looks. It looks so similar to my inspiration piece. And then the only thing that I have to do now is add my molding pieces around the edge. Now the reason why I waited this long to do it is because when I was putting all the transfer tape and everything on, I wanted to be able to flatten everything out really nicely, and I didn't want the transfer tape and the vinyl and everything to stick to the sides. So we're putting it on now. The way I'm going to be doing it is with some liquid nails. We're serious about this molding sticking to the sign. So what I did was I just ran a line of liquid nails along the edge of my wood, and then I placed my molding pieces right over the top of the liquid nails. I let this dry overnight, that way it would be on there permanently. And now we are all finished. Can you believe how easy that was? I just am so in love with the way that this sign looks, and it looks so similar to my inspiration piece. But it costs much, much less. So let's find out how much I spent on my sign. So as you saw, we had extra wood, so it's not gonna cost me any extra for this large piece and also for the trim molding. Those were just leftovers, so that's $0. I already had the stain, so that's again not gonna cost me any money. I'm going to estimate about $10 on the vinyl and the transfer tape. And liquid nails I already had. I can't think of anything else that we spent. So for me to create this sign, it only cost $10, which is a huge savings over our inspiration piece. My inspiration piece was from the Wayfair website. They had a beautiful French country arrangement that I really liked, so I thought that that would be a great place to start. However, this flower arrangement is $151, but because it is the holiday weekend, you get 25% off, which is $113. That's still too much for me to pay, so I thought I would make my own. Now the flowers that I got are from Hobby Lobby. I got 4 of them. They're $7.99 a piece, but that was still too much to pay, so I waited until they were on sale. They were 40% off, which was a much better deal. While I was there, I also found a similar container. The first thing that I'm gonna do is transform my clearance cardboard storage box into a beautiful French country container. So what I did was I got on my computer and I turned on my Photoshop and I tried to replicate the wording and the font exactly. Then I printed it out on some cream cardstock paper that matched the label on the inspiration label, the same color. Then I measured the height of the box and then traced out the exact measurements onto my cardstock. Then I cut it out, and to make sure that the lines were straight, I used my paper trimmer, and I needed to add some extra length to my label. So I cut out additional pieces, and then I taped them all together so that the label would be long enough to go around the entire perimeter of my container. Now it's time to attach my label to my storage container, and so I'm going to use some Mod Podge and a sponge brush. Now, don't be afraid to use a lot of this Mod Podge. I took a bunch of it and I layered it onto my box. I used a thick amount and I painted it on the entire perimeter of the box. Then I placed my label directly over the top of the Mod Podge and made sure that it was centered, and then I smoothed out the label onto the box. Then I took some more Mod Podge and I liberally added a lot more to the top of the label. And again, I did it around the entire perimeter. And don't worry about the cloudy color that it leaves, because as it dries, it will dry clear. So don't worry about the color, because eventually after it dries, it'll look like nothing's on it. Now I let my label dry overnight on my box before I handled it, and then it was time to add my floral foam to the inside of my box. Now I got some floral foam and I put it inside, and I added enough so that it would be even with the top of the storage box. And then after the foam was inside, I got some moss. I added a light layer of moss to the top, and I tacked it all down with some floral pins. Now that my container is prepped and ready, I'm going to add my flowers. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and mimic this as best as I can to have it look like the inspiration piece. So I'm gonna put 2 in the front and 2 along the side. That way it kind of forms a dome shape, which is really similar to our inspiration piece. Well, here is our final arrangement, and I think it turned out so similar to our inspiration piece. The container is almost identical. The size of the width and the height of our arrangement is the same. The flowers are almost identical as well, and it was so much cheaper.